There's a bottle of acid blockers sitting in your kitchen cabinet right now. $28. Pink pills. Your doctor handed you that prescription and called it management. Management of a stomach that used to work fine before the supermarket replaced your grandmother's pantry. I want you to think about that word. Management. Not healing, not curing, management. Because in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, in farmhouses without a single bottle of those pink pills, 80-year-old women are eating 3 meals a day, sleeping 8 hours a night, and have never once needed what your doctor calls essential. 12 meals. That is what I came home with after 2.5 years of sitting at plain tables across Lancaster, Holmes County, Ohio, and Elkhart, Indiana. 12 specific meals these families rotate through the seasons, and every single one of them was designed generations ago to heal something specific in the body. Researchers at Johns Hopkins have spent decades studying Old Order Amish populations and have documented something the rest of us were never told. The chronic illnesses that fill American waiting rooms, the autoimmune flare-ups, the metabolic collapse, the constant low-grade inflammation appear at dramatically lower rates in these communities. The food is doing the work the pharmacy was supposed to do. By the end of this, you will hold the 12th meal. The one Sarah Yoder served me in her kitchen last October when I told her my sister-in-law had been on 3 medications for 14 months and was getting worse. Sarah is 79. She has buried a husband and raised 11 children on a farm outside Bird in Hand. And what she put in front of me that afternoon is something I have never seen mentioned in any cookbook, any wellness channel, any doctor's office in America. You can make it this weekend with what is already at your grocery store. Stay with me. The first meal is the one most Americans would walk past without a second look. A bowl of warm milk soup with browned butter and torn sourdough, eaten before sunrise. Sarah's mother called it the morning that fixes the night. The cultured raw milk carries living bacteria that begin reseeding the gut from the very first spoonful. The browned butter delivers fat-soluble vitamins your liver has been starving for. The sourdough, fermented 48 hours with a starter, some Lancaster families trace back to the original Swiss migration, has already broken down the gluten that wrecks modern digestion. I watched my own mother decline for 9 years on a low-fat diet her cardiologist swore by. 9 years of margarine, 9 years of skim milk, 9 years of getting sicker while doing exactly what she was told. The first time I sat at a plain breakfast table in Intercourse, Pennsylvania, and watched a family pour cream into everything, I understood my mother had been lied to her entire adult life. But the soup was only the opening. The second meal addresses what modern Americans call leaky gut, though the Amish never used that phrase because they never had the condition to name. Bone broth simmered for 48 hours over a wood stove with chicken feet, marrow bones, a splash of apple cider vinegar, and whatever root vegetables the seller offered. The collagen pulled from those bones, the gelatin, the minerals locked in marrow. They coat the intestinal lining and rebuild the tissue. Commercial food has been stripping for decades. A cup of this broth contains more bioavailable amino acids than most protein supplements you can buy for $40 a tub. The third meal is dinner roast. Grass-fed beef cooked slow with onions, carrots, and home-canned tomatoes thickened with browned flour. The fat from the cattle that ate only pasture carries an omega-3 ratio, so different from grain-finished supermarket beef that researchers studying Amish dairy and meat have called it a separate food entirely. This is the meal Sarah serves when one of her grandchildren is recovering from anything: flu, surgery, the long fatigue that follows a hard winter. Therefore, by the time you reach the fourth meal, you begin to notice a pattern. Every dish is doing 2 jobs. It is feeding the body, and it is repairing something specific. Nothing is decorative. Nothing is there for taste alone. Though every one of these meals tastes like the food your grandmother made before the food companies got to her. The fourth meal is sauerkraut and pork, not the vinegar-soaked grocery store kraut that has been pasteurized into something dead. Real, lacto-fermented cabbage from a stoneware crock in a cool basement, eaten alongside roasted pork, shoulder rubbed with caraway and salt. A single forkful of properly fermented kraut delivers more living probiotic strains than a $35 bottle of capsules from the health food store. The pork fat helps your body absorb the vitamin K. 2. The cabbage has been generating for 6 weeks. This combination, eaten weekly, has been documented in Pennsylvania Dutch communities for nearly 3 centuries. The fifth meal targets the heart directly. Liver and onions cooked in lard, served with a side of beet kvass, the fermented beet tonic. Eastern European immigrants brought into Lancaster in the 1800s, and plain families adopted because it worked. The liver delivers iron, B12, and copper in concentrations no supplement can replicate. The kvass thins the blood naturally and feeds the kidneys. I asked Sarah once why nobody in her community took the medications my friends and I rotated through every 6 months. She looked at me across her kitchen table, set down her coffee, and said something I have not stopped thinking about. She said the body is not broken. It is hungry. And what it is hungry for is not in the pharmacy. The sixth meal is chicken and dumplings, made from a hen that lived 3 years laying eggs before she ever became dinner. The collagen from an old bird is in a different universe from the 8-week-old factory chickens sold for $2 a pound. The dumplings are made with fresh milled wheat from a Lancaster grain mill, where the flour still contains the germ. The part industrial milling removes because germ goes rancid on a shelf, and shelf life matters more to corporations than your nervous system. The seventh meal is what Sarah calls Sunday lung soup. Chicken broth, garlic, onions, fresh thyme, a heavy hand of black pepper, and slow-poached chicken thighs, eaten when anyone in the family begins to cough. Penn State Extension has published material on the antimicrobial compounds in fresh garlic and thyme that match what every Lancaster grandmother already knew. But here is where the story turns dark. These meals existed in every American kitchen 100 years ago. Every one of them. Your great-grandmother knew the bone broth. Your great-grandmother knew the sauerkraut crock in the basement. Your great-grandmother fed her children liver because she watched them grow strong on it. And then, somewhere between 1950 and 1980, an entire industry decided that her wisdom was inefficient, her ingredients unprofitable, and her kitchen unmodern. The food companies needed shelf-stable. The pharmaceutical companies needed customers. Both got what they wanted, and your mother got the prescription pad. The eighth meal is cornmeal mush with maple syrup and cream, eaten in the deep cold months. The slow carbohydrates from stone-ground cornmeal, paired with the fat of raw cream, produce the kind of stable blood sugar that modern breakfast cereals destroy in 20 minutes. Amish children eating this every winter morning do not develop the attention problems and metabolic instability that plague their public school counterparts. The ninth meal is pickled eggs and red beets sitting in the same brine for 2 weeks in a glass jar on the cellar shelf. The fermented brine alone, drunk by the spoonful when digestion stalls, contains enzymes and acids that wake the stomach back up. This is what your acid blocker was supposed to do, except the acid blocker shuts the system down and the brine turns it back on. The 10th meal is rye bread with caraway, baked twice a week in a wood-fired oven, served with raw butter and a slice of aged cheese from cows that ate only grass. Rye fed plain communities for centuries before wheat became the American obsession. The fiber profile of true rye bread feeds the gut bacteria that in turn regulate your mood, your immune response, your sleep, and your hunger. The 11th meal is what Sarah taught me on a cold afternoon in her kitchen, and I want to walk you through how it lives in her hands. A heavy cast iron pot sits on the cook stove. Into it go yellow split peas, smoked ham hock from a hog raised on the next farm over, a chopped onion, 2 carrots, garlic, a bay leaf, and well water from the kitchen pump. The lid sits loose for the first hour. The whole house begins to smell of something ancient. By the 3rd hour, the peas have surrendered into a thick golden cream, and the meat falls off the bone with the touch of a wooden spoon. Sarah ladles it into stoneware bowls. A drizzle of cold-pressed sunflower oil goes on top. A spoonful of fresh chopped parsley. Black pepper. The bowl is set in front of whoever in the family is fighting fatigue, recovering from illness, or carrying a child. The fiber rebuilds the gut. The smoked fat carries trace minerals. The legume protein steadies blood sugar for hours. And then comes the 12th. This is the one I drove 3 hours through October rain to sit and learn. Sarah called it her grandmother's quiet meal. The meal a Lancaster woman made when someone in the family was carrying a sickness that nobody in the doctor's office could name. A small clay pot. Inside, a slow simmer of cultured whole raw milk, fresh cracked nutmeg, a single beaten egg yolk, raw local honey, and a generous spoonful of grated fresh horseradish. The horseradish is the secret. Lancaster families have been using fresh horseradish root medicinally for over 2 centuries, for sinuses, for stagnant lungs, for the kind of slow inflammation that builds up in a body that has eaten supermarket food for 40 years. The compounds in fresh horseradish, paired with the cultured milk fat carrying them through the body, do something that researchers studying traditional sinus and respiratory remedies have begun to confirm in the last decade. Sarah served it to me warm, in a mug, and told me to drink it slowly before bed 3 nights in a row. I gave the same instructions to my sister-in-law. 3 weeks later, she called me crying because for the first time in 14 months, she had slept through a full night without waking up congested, without reaching for the inhaler, without needing the pills the specialist had told her she would be on for the rest of her life. That is the meal the doctors will not serve you, not because they are evil, because they were never taught it. And the people who teach them have no profit in horseradish from your own backyard. You just recovered something your own grandmother probably knew, and somebody, a company, a system, a doctor with a prescription pad, quietly took from her without asking. You are the kind of person who keeps the old knowledge alive in your own kitchen, for your own family, the way it was meant to be kept. Now, I want you to do one thing for me. In the comments below, tell me which one of these 12 meals your own grandmother used to make. Tell me her name. Tell me the state she lived in. I read every single comment, and the next video is being built from what you share with me. Subscribe and stay close. Next week, I am sitting down with a Holmes County midwife who is going to walk us through the 3 herbs every Amish woman keeps in her pantry for the years after 50, and one of them is already growing in your yard.